Welcome to the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, where you learn the best doubles lessons to improve your game and win more matches while getting to know some of the top doubles players and coaches on the planet. I'm your host, Will Bochek. This podcast, my weekly strategy newsletter, and my website all focus on the goal of better understanding the sport of doubles and helping players like you improve faster through actionable advice that you can use in your very next match. My goal is to provide the best doubles resources in the world. And to do that, I study, analyze, and work with players at every level of the game, all the way up to the ATP and WTA tours. If you enjoy this podcast, consider becoming a Tennis Tribe member to go even deeper and take your doubles IQ to the next level. Members get access to premium podcast episodes, weekly video lessons, monthly strategy webinars, courses, ebooks, gear discounts, and a lot more. Go to thetennistribe.com/memberships to see all the benefits and sign up. Here's today's episode. You're about to hear my final conversation from Indian Wells, this time with Coach Andy Fitzell, who was there coaching ATP doubles team JJ Tracy and Robert Cash. He's been with them for a couple of years. But before I get into the conversation, a couple of quick announcements. 2 tennis camps, doubles camps that I'm hosting are coming up, and the deadline is very soon. So in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, April 11th and 12th, I'm hosting a camp. I'm going to link to that in the show notes. And then April 18th and 19th, another doubles camp in Miami. So I'm going to be teaching you how to poach, how to move at the net, some of the best shots and tactics for 3-0 to 4-0 level doubles. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or in the Miami area, or you want to fly in for either of those camps, you can check out more information in the show notes or shoot me an email if you have any questions about getting hotels or flight information, when you should fly in, all that sort of stuff. So just reach out if you have any questions, because I do have a few spots left in each of those. So let's dive into this conversation with Andy Fitzell. As I said, he coaches JJ Tracy and Robert Cash, a rising ATP doubles team, an All-American doubles team. They both played college tennis at Ohio State, and we recorded this in kind of a quiet area of the Indian Wells Tennis Garden upstairs in the player area, so you'll notice that we talk a bit softly during this chat. I asked him what a typical match day looks like. What does the warm-up look like? I also asked him who taught him about doubles. He talks about some of the all-time great coaches and what he has learned from them over the years. I also asked him how he thinks about developing JJ and Robert as players and then also developing them as a team. He discussed brain types, which is kind of strange for a tennis podcast, but once you hear Andy explain it, you'll understand kind of the importance of really getting to know your doubles partner's brain type, or if you're a tennis coach, getting to know your player's brain type so that you can deliver information and interact and engage them in the right way. After that, we discussed changing serve technique, managing expectations going into what is a new year for JJ and Robert in terms of level. He talks about how the beginning of last year, they didn't have a whole lot of expectations, with it being a kind of breakout year for them. We discussed how to learn from losses, specifically the quarterfinal loss at the Australian Open. Then we talked about how he learns as a tennis coach, and of course, how to make doubles more popular as well. So without further delay, enjoy this conversation from Indian Wells with Coach Andy Fitzell. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. We're back at Indian Wells, this time with Coach Andy Fitzell. Andy, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So you're here coaching JJ Tracy and Robert Cash, who will have their first round coming up later today. I want to get to tennis, but first, let's start with golf. Who won golf yesterday?
Definitely not me. I think after I think I took on my second or third swing, I tweaked my neck or something. Some kind of spasm happened.
Oh, no.
But I know I was out there just enjoying the sun. But I would say it was probably pretty close. But Both the guys play very good golf, actually. I was impressed. Yeah, they can hammer it.
Really?
Yeah, but
I believe they can hit it far, but sometimes the tennis players can't really hit it straight.
yeah, exactly. Every once, yeah, there was probably a few houses or dogs that were disrupted, but
At risk.
yeah, overall we got a few holes in, which was good.
So what does a day like today look like for you where the match is a little bit later on in the day? Talk about when do you wake up? Do y'all do like a team breakfast? When do you warm up? All the details.
I think typically we would maybe do more of a team. Both the guys have their girlfriends with them, and it was Robert's birthday yesterday, so I know he was out with his girlfriend, and so we kind of did our separate thing last night. Had some little team building yesterday with everybody on the golf course, but then today they're coming in a little later, probably around 12 or so, and we have warm up at 4. So I'll still do a little bit of film work, maybe go through a few things with them as well before practice, and then yeah, just get ready. Unfortunately, we don't really have a not before time, so it'll just depend on how the matches go beforehand. But
sure,
expecting to play under the lights tonight, which will be fun. Last match on, pretty big stadium 3, so it'll be cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you say film work, is that scouting or is that like tweaking things for JJ and Robert?
No, more of scouting. I mean, we've already done a lot of film work. I did some yesterday, but just go through maybe a few other things just to hit it home. But really, in the end, it just comes down to executing basic shots. As you know, the margins are so small, especially in doubles where it's modified scoring. It's not even real tennis in some ways. So just anything can happen, and you just want to make sure that you're clear on any kind of specific plan on different things. But yeah,
sure. What will the warm up look like today before a match like this?
Well, pretty typical. Nothing too different. Just getting loose, and then there may be a few extra things that we'll work on. Maybe a few patterns just to make sure. Okay, practice this and this. I won't give away too much, but
yeah.
But yeah, pretty typical. And then maybe just a few extra things that they need to do during their match.
How long do they like to warm up before matches? Is it like 30 minutes, 45, an hour?
Good question. I think that depends on player to player. I would say not too close to the match time. I think they'd rather not be rushed and be able to, prepare mentally, physically, make sure all the gear's in order. So, we're going 4:00, but that could be 3 hours before they play, just depending on how it goes. But, in those kind of situations, if you need to warm up a second time, you usually typically can do that. So,
who taught you the most about doubles?
Oh, that's a good question. I think overall, my mentor, Vic Braden, but I've been lucky to be around coaches that either worked with Vic or, Steve Smith is another one. I would say a big mentor of mine who spent time with Vic as well. He was also mentored by Welby Van Horn. You got Welby's wall out here. So, his balance system, Dennis Vandermeer as well. So I've learned a lot from both Vic and Steve, as far as the application of doubles, but mainly from Vic. He has a great video that I'm not sure is on YouTube or not, but it's called Go for a Winner. And it was, filmed in just one take. And, it's about mixed doubles, but it's really just doubles. And there's a ton of good information there. It's really just timeless, the things they're wearing, the clothing is all from, late 70s or early 80s, but the information there is timeless. So it was a good foundation, and then his books as well. So those would be the main people that I've learned from.
I'll try to see if I can find that on YouTube. If not, I'll link to some of those resources.
If you don't, I can get it to you somehow. I've got a copy of it. But,
okay.
Tennis Channel owns Vic's library now, and they're supposed to be working on getting more things out there, as far as the copyright goes and all that. But I know there are some channels out there that have a lot of Vic's work. So
that's
worth searching, yeah.
So I want to talk about JJ and Robert's kind of development. When did you start working with them exactly?
So I think it was around 2022.
Okay.
Because I worked with quite a few Buckeyes.
Okay.
In the past, but so I got connected with JJ to go help him with his serve mainly, and then we ended up working kind of on everything, but mainly with his serve. Kind of did a whole revamp on that, got to know him. And then, once they graduated, I've been working with a couple other WTA players in the recent past. And then they asked me right around Wimbledon if I could come over and help them out. And then right after that, they asked if I could help them, as much as I could, because I'm based in Germany and, I have to kind of manage my family life is there as well. But I'm trying to get to most of the big tournaments with them. So, yeah, started since Wimbledon last year.
How do you think about, you mentioned tweaking or changing JJ's serve. Then, of course, you've got Robert and then you've got the team.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about developing each person as a doubles player and then developing the team?
Yeah. So, I mean, each person, we've gone through brain typing, which is something I learned through Vic Braden and the Neednoggles. John Neednoggle has been doing brain typing, and what he does and his son, Jeremy, they do, for example, they help draft players for the NBA, MLB, based on their brain type. Like, for example, they'll go like, you never give this guy the ball in the last seconds because of the way he's wired. He won't be in the moment. He's going to be more in the future. So, we go through that a little bit. Like, okay, here's how you kind of view the world, see the world, but it also comes down to motor skills. Where you're fine motor skilled or gross motor skilled or a mix of both. So I've helped them understand their brain type, and then that can help them how they, organize their life, but also how they do things from a physical standpoint with their body, and it helps me be able to help them with certain things. And then team wise, you go, okay, well here's Robert's personality type, and he's going to like structure and organization and closure to things or needs that. And JJ's more go with the flow, he can wing it and stuff like that. But if they understand each other, then that helps them, as a team to go, okay, I understand you need this and you need this. So that helps them jive as well, which is good. But as far as the tennis side goes, yeah, I mean, working on basics with both of them, and they both have their strengths and weaknesses, which is great, because they can offset each other in certain areas. And then the idea is just to, be well-rounded, both on and off the court.
Yeah, it's interesting when I talk to coaches about developing players. It seems like a lot of the best coaches don't start with tennis. So your first answer there was figuring out their brain type.
Yeah.
Which you would think has nothing to do with tennis, but it's like, well, we actually need to know this to figure out how you can best train and perform and develop yourself. And it makes a lot of sense once you get it, but it's surprising, once I started this podcast and started interviewing some of the top coaches like yourself, hearing some of those answers, I'm like, oh, I can't just focus on the tennis court. I need to learn some of this other stuff too.
For sure. I mean, especially at this level, a lot of the, the relationship and the interpersonal skills and all that kind of things, communication. And so, if you figure, okay, if someone's an introvert, you talk to an introvert a little bit differently than you would an extrovert, or someone that needs, like Robert, if you need a plan and structure, it's like they want to know the plan and structure. What are we doing? And then to help somebody like that, hey, if the plan on the court doesn't go so well, you got to be able to just, hey, let it go and adapt. And then maybe for someone like JJ, it's like, hey, you got to learn to be organized. You got to, so and the whole goal with that, again, is not to put anybody in a box, but to be more well-rounded. And then that brain typing, that's just part of the assessment that I would do with a player. I did film them, all their strokes from, 2 or 3 different angles at the very beginning. And so you can go through areas where they're efficient or inefficient as far as their ball striking goes. First thing with that is injury prevention. So you want to just be as efficient as you can. And sometimes, for example, with Robert's serve, it's something he's been wanting to work on, and it's tough, making changes, especially at this level after so many years of playing. The brain, you're really wired, but so he's in the middle of that right now, making some changes, and then Jade is working on volleys and just improving his net game all around. As you know, he can knock the snot out of the ball, knock the yellow out of the ball off the ground, but it all starts with how they do things physically, mentally, And then, the character side of things was something that I've learned a lot from Steve Smith about. And just, obviously the best thing a coach can do is to try to be a living example, where you try to set the tone on things that you would like people to do from a character aspect, but all those things come into it. So, yeah.
When you're developing, like, let's say Robert's serve or JJ's volleys, do you tell them, and it might be different for each because of their brain type being different, but how do you create kind of a plan to develop that thing? Is it like, Robert, we're going to actually spend a higher percentage of practice time on your serve? Or is it, I need you to do this on your off days? Or how do you approach that?
Yeah. No, I mean, it starts with video. So you can show them and then you give them rationale, that'll make sense because it's all in the end physics. And then again, efficiency, you really just want the least amount of moving parts with the least amount of muscular effort. And so, there's lots of different ways to skin a cat, but, are people efficient or not? But you start with that and then it just goes, okay, if you're dealing with most shots, you go, what do you do with your grip? What do you do with your swing? What do you do with your body? But then on the serve, you add the toss. So you have grip, swing, body, toss. And then you can tackle, it's just a good way to organize your thought process where you go, okay, hey, we're going to really work on just what you do with your swing. And this is the goal, to go from this to this. And here's why. Or, hey, we're going to work on what the body does. And so we're going to work on this. And then really, it just comes down to work ethic and how bad you want it to make those changes. You have to continually use video. You have to continue to hit people over the head, and then set people up with routines. So, I mean, even this week, yesterday, for example, our practice, Rob and I got here early in the morning just to get an extra 15, 20 minutes before practice and just did some basic drills and shadow swings. And you just have to keep chipping away at it because changing is really tough. You really have to put a lot of time and understand that it takes reps to overwrite the old program to get the new one. That's why most people don't change, really. The pain of changing is oftentimes greater than the pain of losing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of, it's one of the reasons I kind of focus on strategy for the club players is because for them to change their serve, like they probably just don't have the time to put in the reps to improve their serve. So like if you've got your like pancake grip on your serve or whatever, it's like, if you're only playing tennis 3 or 4 hours a week and most of that is match time, we're not going to switch your grip serve. I just want you to pancake it into their forehand or their backhand, and then we'll figure out the strategy.
Yeah, you can go that way. I mean, for me, even if you just get a few minutes here and there, just to get the information, and you have to explain to them, hey, this could take a long time, but if you can chip away at it, 5, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, you can get there. It's a tough thing because, the club players, you talk about strategy. It's like, a lot of times they don't know where the ball's going.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, the strategy overall is really just get the ball back in or hit it deep through the middle if you can. Really basic things. And then, the better your toolkit becomes, then you can start to implement more tactics and strategy. But it is tricky because it's painful for people to change. When they first go to a continental grip on the serve, they end up, with the same body position that they did with the pancake serve, which is facing forward. And then, so when they first try continental, the ball just, if they're right-handed, hits the net post to the left.
At best, or left, or the other court.
Because it's, the racket face is tilted 45 degrees more to the left with that continental grip change. So then if they keep their body at a 45, then it will point to the net, to their target. But so you have to go through all those little things.
Talk about the journey that they've been on over the last year or so in terms of their progression. Last year was a big year for them. They made a run in Dallas where I first talked to them, and then obviously the US Open last year. This year they got to the third round of the Australian Open, faced Granollers and Ceballos again, which is a tough matchup. So talk about kind of their progression, and then what do they need to do to kind of get over that hump and get to the next step?
Yeah, the progression's been, obviously for them, great. The one thing about coming out on a tour, they had little to no expectation, right? So they're really free mentally, just having fun. And then, as they've moved up the ranks here, it's like you start to feel that, okay, the expectations start to come, or maybe they want it a little more. And so that's something you have to really battle, is to stay. I kept telling them at the US Open, hey, just stay in the dirt, stay with the process. That comes from Gary Vaynerchuk. Just don't get lost in the clouds, just stay in the dirt, do the daily process, the work, and just try to get better.
I like that. I used to follow his stuff pretty closely.
Yeah, he's cool.
He's really motivational.
He's cool. And so, now, this year, they had a little bit of a result in Australia, losing, but they've lost some matches, most all of them in 3 sets, and had some match points in Dallas. And so they're aware of some things a little bit more. And so getting them to get that mentality of just, hey, let's try to enjoy it and have fun out there, serious fun, and not get too caught up in rankings and results. And that's tough for everybody. But for them right now, it's a major focus, is just to try to keep, an even keel and keep the energy up and not let it go up and down. And, especially when the things get tight, you just, like we were talking before, is, doubles, the margins are so thin, and it's a modified scoring that anything can really happen, and you just got to keep hanging in there.
So just a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go here. I mentioned the loss in Australia, similar to the match in New York, the same opponent.
Yeah.
Lost the first set, won the second set, lost in 3. What do you do, or what did you do after the loss in Australia to try to learn from that and try to get them in the mindset to believe that they can win that match next time?
It's really just video. You got to go back to it and look, see, here's what you did well, and then what happened in the game. You got broken. There was a miscue on the first point, and someone hits a good return, and all of a sudden you're down about 30, and so it's, like I said, the margins are so small, but recognizing certain patterns, that people do, and then you've got to try to either be better in that pattern, or you've got to take it away. So, I like Jack Kramer's line where he said, if you look at your opponent and look at yourself, and if your strengths outweigh your strengths, then you go with your strengths. Mm-hmm. But if they don't, then you have to make people hit shots they don't want to hit. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it's all about. But yeah, going back to film and that's kind of the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality, where you just go, hey, let's just take a look. You got to be, it's not fun to look at your losses, but that's where you're going to learn the most. I think Novak said that recently in an interview as well. It's just like, hey, you got to be willing to go take a look and figure out what you can do better next time. I think the belief is there. I think they believe they can beat anybody. It's just a matter of execution, and they're so young, especially for the doubles mm-hmm. side of things. There's not many that are out there as young as they are, doing as well as they are. So they're still raw in a lot of ways, but they're willing to do that kind of work and put in that time to move forward. So yeah, next time hopefully we'll be ready for those guys to take that third set.
Yeah. I mean, the takeaway for me with those matches that you've mentioned a few times is just how small the margins are in these matches. Like it can be one second kind of brain fart, and that's it.
No, exactly.
It's all over.
It's just tough because in a lot of matches, they, like I said, a couple of match points, but those last 5-10 minutes, with the super breaker, it's like you just, someone hits a net cord or a double fault or, whatever it may be, just, and then all of a sudden the match is gone. That's the nice part about the Grand Slams. At least you got it's real tennis. You got the scoring system where it should be.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. It sounds like you really don't like the no ad 10 point.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, I just think it just dumbs down the sport and takes
it certainly brings luck into play more so, right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it as far as scheduling, and maybe it's exciting for the fans, but the doubles guys, they're not making as much money, and when it comes down to just you travel to China and then lose in a third breaker, it's just a long way to go for the exercise.
Mm-hmm. 2 more questions here. How do you continue to learn as a coach?
Well, things like this, I listen to a lot of podcasts, not only from tennis, but just different sports. Like I went through a bunch of Nick Saban videos with the guy the other day, just the character
cool.
side of thing. And so a lot of reading, a lot of podcasts. That's, I think, the main source really these days anyway. There's videos out there. Obviously, my background with Great Base Tennis and Steve, where he did a lot of coach education. And so there's, everybody's kind of making content these days, and some's good and some maybe not so good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely a lifetime learner. And like I said, there's more to it just than the tennis. You've got to know, the physical side, the mental side, all those things come into it.
How do you think, or what needs to happen from either the tours or these tournaments or the players to help make doubles more popular?
I just got to show it, I was talking about something. It's like, it just needs attention. I mean, I get it. The marquee players are always going to pull it, but just like anything, where you put the attention to it. So even if they made their own kind of channel, it's like, but it's just sad. Like for example, like Tennis TV at ATP 250, you've got to log into some betting site to watch the match.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they're right there and the cameras are there, it's like, hey, you just flip the camera on,
yeah.
So putting attention to it. I mean, everybody's got a story. I mean, look at Robert's story being, with medical school, putting that on hold, and everybody's got a story, which is great. But, so it'd be nice if they just had some kind of team set up that would really just follow the doubles guys,
mm-hmm.
because it really is fun, a lot of action, and think of all the club tennis, it's mainly doubles, so I know there's a fan base for it, but you really have to market it. So it'd be nice if they get more attention. And, it comes down to the players maybe trying to put out content or whatever they're trying to do, that TikTok or Instagram, but that all takes time and energy as well. So it's not easy to do. And you got to deal with, people's comments and that kind of stuff, where it can get pretty ugly, and
mm-hmm.
and that's an energy zapper as well. So it's poison,
right?
Cancer. So it's not an easy answer, but yeah, I wish they would go back to regular scoring. Just keep it true, and then yeah, get a little more marketing behind doubles and the people that play it.
Yeah, my understanding is the players, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the players don't have access to post their own highlights.
Yeah, it's very, very little.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example. All the alphabet soup of tennis, they're trying to control things. It's like, if they just realized the more content you could put out, the more attention it's going to get.
Sure.
So to me, those things are kind of no-brainers.
Yeah. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, it's not that kind of, it's like, hey, just, people are having to take little snippets from their, from Tennis TV or wherever, and trying to do it, and hopefully they don't get, some kind of copyright strike.
Yeah. I've had a few myself.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
Yeah, it's not
so
easy to do.
You have to be careful.
Yeah, exactly. No, I filmed here. Vic Braden and I did a project on Stadium Court. We had 3 cameras that I ran all day for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we've got hours and hours of footage, but we're not really allowed to use a lot of it publicly. So
mm-hmm.
Same thing. I've been dealing with that forever.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Andy, this was a ton of fun. Hopefully we can do it again in the future, and best of luck this week at Indian Wells.
Sure. And I appreciate it. And hopefully your listeners got something out of it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast. If you're interested in diving deeper into the world of doubles strategy, I've created Tennis Tribe memberships that allow me to bring you more podcast episodes, video lessons, webinars, and other doubles content on a weekly basis without relying on paid ads. The lessons inside the membership will help you better game plan with your partner, optimize your practices, and become the smartest player on the court. Go to thetennistribe.com/memberships to learn more and sign up. You can also join my free newsletter on our homepage, where I share a new doubles lesson every week. If you want to connect, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or contact me through our website. Thanks again for listening.